Who wants to tell me how we started out in the Loud House and how we ended up having its own show?
So we started out with Ronnie Ann as a kid in Lincoln School in the Loud House, and they were buddies and had a bit of a crush on each other, which was expressed by stuffing sandwiches down Lincoln's pants and pranking him in different ways. And Ronnie Ann was just, and Ronnie Ann just started to pop right away as a really fun, relatable, funny, sort of strong personality, tomboyish character. We had her older brother Bobby, who was Lori's, the oldest Loud sister Lori's longtime boyfriend, and he also turned out to be a really funny kind of goofball character. And so we started to think maybe we could explore more about their family, and they started out as just a small single-parent family living in Royal Woods, but we started to think, well, what if we could meet more of their family if they moved out of Royal Woods, and we put Ronnie in a big city with this big multi-generational family, and it was a way to sort of keep the tone and the comedy and the heart of the Loud House, but to put it in a whole new situation where we could have a lot of different kinds of stories to tell.
Miguel, you briefly told me backstage that this story is loosely based on your life.
Well, a lot of my family is embedded in the show. Like my grandmother, my cousins, the way I grew up. Some of my first friends were my brothers and my cousins. So we grew up all together in one house, and we were always surrounded with family.
Yeah, we involved Miguel from the very beginning of trying to develop this idea, and we had him come into the writer's room several times, and he just talked about his life. Miguel really is such a huge part of the DNA of the show, and bringing his experiences really kind of brought it alive for us.
This is going to mean so much to so many communities. What does it mean to you as a young Latina?
I mean, it truly means a lot to me. Growing up, I didn't really have like a multi-generational Latino family either. So now that we're able to be a part of this Casagrandes, I think it's really special.
Sonia, what can you talk about as far as like all the changes that you've seen and how long it's taken?
Oh my goodness, it's taken so long. Of course, I was raised in the 50s in New York City, and I watched hours and hours of television because I just love television. And I never saw anybody who looked like me or lived in a neighborhood like I did. And you know, after so long, you wonder what you're going to contribute to a society that's blind to your existence. So I was, of course, thrilled to be on Sesame Street, but I did think that there'd be 1,000 shows with a lot of Latinos. So I'm really tickled to be part of this group. It's sort of a natural progression that you know, you will reach a lot more children. There's different aspects of the Mexican American family that's very specifically dealt with on this show. So it's just wonderful, and I hope that there's more coming.
Alan, do you want to talk about some of the voices that are not here today? Eugenio Derbez, you have Ken Jeong coming on, and you have Melissa Joan Hart.
Oh yes, it's a really diverse cast, a lot of really funny folks. My favorite part of every Monday is going to the voiceover records. We try to get as many of the cast as we can into one room. Sometimes we have 8 to 11 people crammed in there. And the energy and the laughs are just so much bigger when we have everybody there together. It's really nice to have an ensemble. I also really, the young actress Leah Gold, who plays Sid, Ronnie Ann's best friend, is also one of my favorites and one of the standouts on the cast. She's hilarious. She's great.
Carlos, one of my favorite things about the series is the multi-generational relationships. Mm-hmm. What can you talk about what we can expect to see moving forward that, you know, with these relationships?
Well, I'm glad that Carlos gets involved with Ronnie Ann in terms of sharing that bond of loving skateboarding. For the most part, Carlos is sort of the eye of the hurricane, especially being married to Frida. It's like a telenovela every night. Just take it easy, Frida. Don't tell me to take it easy. So it's nice when Carlos gets to come out of his shell a little bit. But I also, my nephews are in Northern California, and I got to see them growing up, but never had that experience of growing up in a multi-generational house. So I think going forward, you'll see every character interacting with every character. I love the way Abuelo, interacts with Vito Villapone. I play a guy named Vito Filippone, and then he's kind of buddies, and he's always at the bodega asking for a handout. But that's what I like about it. The multi-general aspect offers so many possibilities for every character to get involved with everybody else. It's like collecting Pokemon cards. So you'll play with this one, now you'll play with that one. We can mix and match a lot of stories, so I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Mike, behind the scenes, there was a lot of thought put into being culturally authentic.
Yes.
What can you talk about your writer's room, and you have a consultant that you worked with?
Yes, I believe he's in the audience today. Yes, absolutely. That was, we knew that was going to be essential going in, that we had to have as many authentic voices and representation on the show in the cast, in the writer's room, in the art department, in the storyboarding, in production, and just all across the board, so that we got it right. That was really important to us. And it started with Miguel, who was, as I said, a big part of developing it. Then as soon as we started to get serious about launching this as a series, we got Lalo involved and a lot of other people as well. Our art director, Miguel Gonzalez. So we have
one of the most diverse art departments and production teams I think I've ever had the pleasure of working with. It really is a melting pot behind the scenes.
Can I add a note for Mr. Authenticity, Lalo out there? I'm Puerto Rican, so I get a lot of my Spanish corrected. I'll never forget the flan incident where I said the word flan, and I always say flan, and my mother says flan, and Lalo says, no, you gotta say flan. So I'm very mindful of that, and on a serious note, I think that that's absolutely perfect that such care is taken to, so that it's a real authentic Mexican-American presentation on the show, thanks to Lalo.
So I've for my actors here, I've heard from other people that they love doing voice acting because they can show up in their PJs. You don't necessarily even see many other people when you're going in there. So
it's pretty cool. It's always relative to the project you're doing, whether on camera or voice is more fun. But in this case, this is very symphonic. It's fun to watch Leah and Alex Casares and Roxana Ortega and Ruben Garcia. When it's all cooking and going, you're watching a symphony. You're watching a jazz session. And the kids are, I call them kids, with the three, Izabella and Leah and Alex, they anchor the show. I mean, they're solid. And then everything else is just gravy. It's just the cymbals and the hi-hats and everything. And it's fun to watch. It's really, that's the joy of doing voiceover.
Izabella, with you being such a young actor, you were just on Westworld. That's such a huge cast. I know, clap for Westworld. Are you finding a preference between voice acting or regular acting?
They're very different. I truly love both. There's like a special place in my heart for voice acting and live action. But I do get to pull up in PJs for voice acting, which I do love. There's like no makeup and hair involved. And no trailers. You're not like walking out of it. So you're just there. You're in the moment, which is really fun.
Miguel, for you, was it important for the occupations of everybody on here? Because I feel like, we've been stereotyped for so long that people don't imagine that we're nurses or business owners or whatever else, as silly as that may sound. So was that something that was important for you?
Yeah, from the beginning, like we have doctors, we have nurses, we have business owners. Carlos is a skater. He's a professor at a college. Frida is a painter and a crier. And just a musical family, and that's just amazing just to see it, just to have so many portrayals on the show. That's your typical stereotype that you always hear about Mexican Americans.
So I love that we can show that this show crosses. This is not a Latino show. It's a show that has Latino families, but it has a universal story.
Exactly. A lot of people can relate to that experience.
I imagine that was important here because Nickelodeon. This is not like Nick Latino or some kind of offset. Like this belongs on a channel that gets a variety of different viewers.
Yes.
Mike, so why was that important to you?
Well, I think from the very beginning, the goal for the show was to have that balance between the specific world of the Casagrandes and all the cultural things that we're exploring, but also have this be a show that has universal appeal to the whole Nickelodeon audience, and that, all kids have families and all kids have relatives and grandparents and have to deal with new challenges and being put into new situations the way that Ronnie Ann is. So I think that, and have a best friend and, have a group of kids at school that they hang out with. So everything that Ronnie Ann, all of her adventures should be relatable. I think that Ronnie Ann is such a compelling and fun and funny character, and there's just so much comedy and so much heart in this family. I think that the world that Ronnie Ann lives in is a world relatable to so many kids. She lives in a big city. She lives with her extended family. She goes to school. She has the same challenges and problems of any kid. So I think it really will have a universality to it.
I think inviting the Casagrandes into your home and kind of realizing, hey, they're not as different as we think they are. We are actually very similar in so many ways. I think that's as fun as this is to watch, it's still really this it brings understanding that, hey, we're all just the same.
Yeah.
Ronnie Ann is definitely me. And I hope that we have a lot of little girls here in the audience, and that they can see Ronnie Ann and say, hey, that's me too. Yeah.
Casagrandes it's the funniest show I've worked on, and it's vibrant and exciting, and it's going to be on Nickelodeon on Monday, October 14th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific time.
It's one of the most exciting new cartoons out there that's family oriented, and there's so much diversity in it that in order to touch each different ethnic group, we're gonna need like 26 seasons.
Yeah, I think that this is a really funny and fun, exciting cartoon. There's so much comedy in it. There's so much heart in it. I think this family is a family that hopefully people will really fall in love with.
You watch it because it'll remind you that in our own families, even though you're not perfect, even though you drive each other crazy, you have ups and downs, this show reminds you that family is really important, and it's dynamic, and it's rich and wonderful. So watch it just to remind yourselves that family is cool no matter what happens. So.
What he said. No, do watch and do become part of the family, and you'll be happy you did.
We put a lot of time and effort into it, and the crew is absolutely amazing, and the cast, and we love the show, so we hope you love it as much as we do.
In order for you guys to have your 20, 30 seasons, you guys need to watch. So, Casagrandes. Thank you guys.
Thank you.